How do you develop the vast motivation of the bodhisattvayana? Just as space pervades everywhere, sentient beings exist everywhere. Wherever there are sentient beings, there are negative karma and afflictions. Wherever there are negative karma and afflictions, there is endless resultant suffering. All sentient beings who are experiencing endless suffering, without exception, have been your mother and father since beginningless time. This was stated very clearly by the Buddha in the sutras. When they were your mother or father, they treated you exactly like your present parents and brought you up with their purest hearts and kindest care, for which you owe a great debt of gratitude to them. Though these benevolent parents want to attain happiness, they don't know the causes for it is to accumulate virtue. Though they want to rid themselves of suffering, they constantly create the causes for suffering. What they wish for and what they actually do are always contradictory. Thinking of this, you should generate a kind motivation. How wonderful it would be if all miserable sentient beings could be freed from any kind of suffering. When you have this thought of getting sentient beings out of suffering, you should also evoke the kind wish to place them in the state of perfect peace and happiness, such as physical health and mental joyfulness. However, an existence or a birth in the three lower realms is never endowed with peace and happiness. Beings in the celestial and human realms may experience a certain level of happiness, but it is temporary and not long-lasting because it is subject to change. Since they experience suffering when happiness declines, such happiness is insubstantial. Such being the case, it will not bring sentient beings much benefit by placing them in the higher realms of gods and humans. Further, you should have a more deliberate consideration. Even if you get them out of samsara, freeing them from its causes that are karma and affliction, as well as its effect that is suffering, and helping them attain the fruition of the Shravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas, it is still less beneficial and not of the utmost meaning. This is because although Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas have achieved enlightenment that brings the highest level of self-benefit and enables them to enjoy great peace and happiness, their attachment to the extreme of one-sided peace prevents them from vastly benefiting others. What brings the greatest benefit to sentient beings is to place them in the state of perfect Buddhahood that transcends the two extremes of existence and peace. That is, with the wisdom of realizing the selflessness of the individual and of phenomena, you can eradicate the suffering of samsara from the very root. And with great compassion, you will not remain in one-sided peace, but will benefit sentient beings throughout space. In order to achieve such a result, you should generate the supreme bodhicitta that aspires for perfect enlightenment of both yourself and all sentient beings. This is the vast motivation of the bodhisattvayana. The fruition of Buddhahood does not appear without proper causes and conditions. You need to be trained in its fully endowed causes to bring it to maturity. What are these causes? They are fully endowed discipline, fully endowed meditative absorption, and fully endowed wisdom. Fully endowed discipline. How do you observe pure discipline? Observing the vows of pranamoksha is to avoid harming other sentient beings from the very root. Observing the bodhisattva vows is to aspire to benefit all sentient beings, irrespective of how many eons it may take, how huge their numbers are, and how difficult they are to be tamed. That which accomplishes the twofold benefit of self and others easily and swiftly is the samayas of secret mantrayana. In terms of easily and swiftly, easily means you can attain the state of great bliss while enjoying all pleasures of the five senses at will and without having to abandon them. Swiftly means you are able to attain the state of Vajradharahood within this short lifetime in the age of degeneration, without having to undergo long-term ascetic practices. Resting the mind single-pointedly is called meditative absorption. The pith instructions for resting the mind include eliminating the 5 faults, relying upon the 8 recognitions, and practicing the 9 methods of placement. By applying these techniques, you will gradually cultivate the 9 successive absorptions. A detailed introduction to them can be found in Maitreya's treatises. If explained according to pith instructions, gradually pacifying all conceptual thoughts by observing the mind with your own mind and resting in its natural state is called meditative absorption. There are 3 types of wisdom: wisdom that comes from hearing, wisdom that comes from contemplation, and wisdom that comes through meditation. Wisdom that comes from hearing is cultivated by clearly listening to the teachings of sutras and tantras in front of qualified spiritual teachers, especially those teachings that you will implement in actual practice. Wisdom that comes from contemplation is cultivated by repeatedly reflecting on the words and the meaning of what you have received, and eventually dispelling all darkness of not understanding, misunderstanding, and doubt in order to gain certainty about reality. Wisdom that comes through meditation is cultivated by integrating the meaning that has completely dispelled any doubt you might have through repeated meditation. You must practice these causes for attaining Buddhahood, the 3-fold trainings of discipline, meditation, and wisdom. This time here, I hope all of you can adjust your motivation to receive the pure teaching